Good morning, this is Marie, and I'm doing the review for Pixel Fight Club Continues for the week of 4/25. Russell, bless his heart, has provided us with 3 images that we can start with. From what I understand, these are all rendered images, even though they do look quite realistic in some ways. So anyways, here's what we had to start with, and thank you, Russell, for posting. Please remember that if you decide to do a review, it doesn't have to be a video or an audio review. You can just write it down. I appreciate any help I can get with this. This is the image that Christine entered. You can see that she used the mountains and she put a nice lovely sunset, sunrise sky behind it. But you know me, I keep my monitor dark and I can't see a thing here. So what I have done is I have made a copy of this, changed it into a smart object, and use a camera raw filter on it so I can see at least a little bit more what's going on. I like the fact that she has given credit to Russell for this image. It's interesting that she's kept the sunset sunrise colors. I'm going to say sunset colors throughout her image because that's what color the light would be. I'm just looking back at the original here for a second. It looks like what she's done is added some plant life along the rim of the canyon. And I'm going to add a little bit of a levels adjustment here. Maybe we can see that just a little bit more. It really messes up with the color. Maybe if I put this on luminosity mode, it will look better. But she has put a meadow and a rim along the canyon a little bit. I like the way that there's fog in the background, as one would see. I'm not sure about the lighting in this one. If we look at this, the light is coming from behind the viewer. And up here in the mountains, as we zoom in, it looks like maybe the light is coming from the right side. Hard to say, and that may be, let me go back and look here. Oh, that's exactly what we're seeing here as well. Boy, she did a good job to get those mountains out of there, I'll tell you what. My concern with this is that it is really, really dark. Quite often we work in a bright room and we set our monitor brightness really, really high. And then it looks good in our room in a bright light, but when we go someplace else, the internet or somebody else's monitor doesn't really show up just because the screen was so bright and other people's may not be so much. If this is the case, you're probably having trouble with your prints as well. It will be too dark to print and you'll have to make adjustments. If you keep your room that you work in relatively dim and keep your monitor on the dark side, you'll have a better match between print and screen. And that's all without even using a colorimeter to adjust the colors on your screen. All right, then we have Sherry's image. an interesting street scene, but it's, to me, very, very chaotic. The colors being muted like this, almost a sepia tone, does simplify it somewhat, but there's still an awful lot of busy going on here. There are signs in every direction. There's all of this wire fencing, and there's all these people, and nobody's looking at us, and nobody's looking at anything in particular. My eyes are finding it difficult to see the subject. Now, ordinarily in something like this, we'd say, well, the lightest area is what you want us to look at. Well, we have this, what looks like a mirror in the building over here that's fairly light. And we have some sweatshirts over here behind this fencing that's fairly light. And we might even consider this girl on the building here. But as we move between these three light areas, it isn't telling us anything. I don't catch a clear sense of what this is about. That may be my failing. I'm wondering if we could possibly improve the image with a judicious crop. And something like this, perhaps. And now we do have a subject. We have this guy who is just heading down these stairs. We still have this light area over here that probably should be darkened down a little bit. And it wouldn't hurt to have these people here in front lighter. After all, I think this is the subject. This is just my thoughts. Maybe I'm all wrong. But anyways, let's look at the whole thing again. I had to look quite a while before I found the original image, which is right here on top of this sign. It's the little robot guy. And it took me a long time to find this. One of the things that I had trouble with was that it was so dark again. So I added a levels adjustment layer, which I think improved it tremendously, except in the areas where it was too light. So perhaps I would take a brush here and real soft brush and make those areas that are too light a little bit darker. Just now this is just rough and dirty. Now, so I could work out the balance a little bit better. I think probably the background is where it ought to be, but the people in the foreground ought to be lightened like this. And I really wanted to see what was going on, so I added a brightness and contrast layer and improved increased the contrast quite a bit. And I also thought that helped a bit. But again, I would perhaps mask out the extra stuff and maybe even just increase the contrast on the one guy that might be the subject. Just thoughts. Whoops, I did the wrong one there. So here's what we started with, and here's kind of what I ended up with, sort of. I like the way the colors are muted. Like I said, it did help tremendously to simplify this very, very busy scene. But the light and dark clues aren't helping me make sense of this image. Then we come to Helen's, and again we have the rocky background. She's added some trees and put in a lake. Excellent water. I don't know if she did this with flood or if it were from one of her images, but I'm guessing it's probably from the canoe image, and she's done an excellent job of getting some reflections in there and having the water come all over the edge. It's just done really well. There is one thing that I was curious about, and I wondered what it would look like with one canoe instead of two, because they say odd numbers are always stronger than even numbers, so you want 3 palm trees or 5 palm trees and not 2 or 4. And I wondered what that would look like, so I took a minute and I cloned and moved out the extra canoe. Not sure it did a lot. It was just something I was curious about. One thing that you might consider, since there's not much going on in the sky, there's no clouds or anything, this might be the point where you do bring down your crop a little bit. I know it makes the horizon kind of in the middle, not as much in the middle as it was, and I think, well, let's put this where it shows the whole thing. I think that the crop makes it a stronger image, just because more of what's there is important to the story or important to the image. The last one I'm going to talk about for a minute is this one that I put together. Amy's comments about being really swamped hit home with me, because April has just been a horrid month for me in a lot of different ways. I am feeling swamped, and Amy, if you want, that can be you on the boat. When I put it there, I thought it was me on the boat that was just about ready to sink. As I look at it, I wanted it to be bleak, so I took a lot of the color out. But I think perhaps it doesn't give you the sense of stress, that I wanted. I got to thinking probably what I should have done was add a color lookup table in tension green. And I think tension green really does a little bit to get more of my jangled nerves. So anyways, congratulations, Helen. You are the favorite this week. It's clean, it's simple, it's well done. And it has a clear subject, and that subject is the lightest stuff in the image, so our eyes go to that. The canoes point to the trees kind of lean over to the side, so we go back down the cliff and then back to the canoes, and it gives us a nice, pleasing path throughout the image. Thank you all for participating. Christine has put up 2 images for next week, a slug and a spider. I know, creepy crawlies, but they're excellently done, and I think it should be interesting to see what we can do with them. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you in a while.